How'd the moon get there? Who put it there? Did it just happen?
This isn't an in-depth technical breakdown. I'm just going to do a general overview of this fight since it isn't an official fight. If it does get booked, we'll look at it in further detail. But you guys have been asking me to talk about this fight, so here we go. What if it had been Conor fighting Khabib instead of Michael Johnson that night? Personally, I feel based on what we've seen from Khabib against RDA, and especially against Michael Johnson, Conor would fare pretty well against him. In my opinion, Khabib plays a dangerous game deciding to strike with his opponents. Especially in the Michael Johnson fight, his striking defense is to either down parry the incoming punches and counter, or he'll pull his chin straight back and up. Khabib can get away with doing that against Michael Johnson or RDA, but I really doubt he can do that against Conor McGregor. There are a couple reasons I didn't pick Johnson to beat Khabib. First is Johnson's inaccuracy and his overextension with the strikes. He often misses his target and he overcommits. Khabib isn't the best at avoiding these shots, but he's able to avoid them just enough since Johnson doesn't really set them up. Because of this, it leaves Johnson susceptible to getting taken down, and when Johnson is on his back, it's not likely he's going to get back up, especially if they're the better grappler. Joe Rogan had said during the broadcast that we've never seen anyone handle Johnson the way Khabib did, and I disagree. We've seen Johnson get held down a few times now, and he's also been submitted, so it didn't come as a surprise that a dominant grappler like Khabib would be able to pin him down and land bombs. Michael Johnson and Conor McGregor are both southpaws with decent timing, but other than that, they're almost nothing alike, and the same can be said for RDA. Conor's footwork is much more economical. He has 2 additional inches on Johnson and a 4-inch reach advantage over Khabib. Conor is also a much better pressure striker, much more accurate, and he's likely more powerful than Michael Johnson too. Khabib is very reactive to his opponent's feints, and it was no difference in the Johnson fight. Khabib can be pressured against the cage by southpaws, and we saw a little of that against RDA. To me, that is a huge factor when looking at this potential matchup. When RDA pressured Khabib, he escaped by straight blasting forward off the fence, and RDA backed up to avoid the incoming strikes. We know by now from watching Conor, that is exactly what he wants, so he can back up and counter. I don't think Khabib would fare well against Conor's pressure, and I think Khabib would have a very difficult time parrying or avoiding Conor's punches. Therefore, it would be hard for Khabib to find his entries to take Conor down without completely telegraphing his shot. Watch any of Conor's fights. When he's able to successfully pressure and land strikes, it makes his opponent shoot in for horribly timed takedowns. We saw it especially against Alvarez. Conor would undoubtedly control the range in this fight with Khabib, and that is a large chunk of any fight. He who controls range controls the fight. Perhaps Khabib could power through some of the strikes to secure a takedown, then sure, he could probably keep Conor down, but I'm not convinced he'd be able to finish him early enough to save himself for the later rounds. It took Khabib 3 rounds to defeat Michael Johnson, 2 rounds to finish a short-notice non-UFC fighter Daryl Horcher. He submitted Kamal Shalarus in the 3rd round, and he's been a decision 4 times in the UFC. Khabib owns 1 first-round TKO victory thus far in his UFC tenure. Given that every round starts standing, I'd find it hard to believe Khabib would be able to effectively time each and every takedown perfectly to keep Conor McGregor down for 5 rounds. In my opinion, Khabib would need to submit or knock out Conor inside 2 rounds, otherwise I think it'd be very difficult for him to finish that fight. He'd be wearing a lot of damage, I would imagine, given his striking defense and Conor's accuracy. Khabib's grappling may be on another level, but Conor's striking is too. I feel like if Khabib had finished Michael Johnson earlier, I'd be singing a different tune, but if Khabib were to take that performance and apply it to Conor, I really think he wouldn't have survived. Give Conor a full training camp and he'll game plan very effectively for his opponents. I don't think Khabib is a game planning guy. He usually has the same style in every fight, regardless of opponent. He might make a few adjustments depending on their stance, but other than that, it's not much different. Michael Johnson was able to defend a takedown, but he also pulled guard on a guillotine in the 2nd round. Conor has more leverage with his reach, and he's definitely not going to pull guard on someone like Khabib. In summary, I feel like Khabib would find success maybe where Eddie Alvarez wasn't able to, but his striking really makes me hesitant to pick him. I think Khabib is reckless, and his decision-making on the feet is questionable. Khabib can win if he puts together a plan that works for him and he doesn't telegraph his shots, but it seems there's still a lot of ground for him to cover. We could discuss the mental aspect and the cardio, but that'll get talked about to an exhausting degree if this fight gets made, just like most fights. So I'll let you guys heed your own advice as far as that goes. So from this early out, and based on the little research I've done, I would lean Conor to defeat Khabib, but that could change. If this fight does get made, we can examine it in more detail, but just from the light research I've done, I feel like Conor would get the better of Khabib standing in each and every round. If the fights didn't start on the feet and they started from a grappling position, well then I'd always choose Khabib, but this is mixed martial arts, and since we start standing, I feel like Conor holds a very significant advantage in the opening going of this fight. Thanks for watching Rapid MMA. Please leave your thoughts below, and if you're purchasing UFC 206, please consider using the affiliate code in the description when making your purchase. It's no additional cost, and you're supporting the channel by doing it.